Hello friends, this is Hedda. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you for stopping by. I hope that you enjoy your stay here and that you'll subscribe so that you can get notified about future videos. Today I am setting up my bullet journal for the month of February. I'm using an A5 dot grid notebook from Notebook Therapy, which you can find a link and discount code to in the description box below. This month I've used a plethora of different markers and colors, mostly from Tombow and Archer and Olive. The Archer and Olive Calligraph pens are my new shiny toys this year, and you can find a link and discount code for them in the description box as well. I'm also using a variety of fine liners from Tombow, Copic, and Unipen. The theme I chose for February is mermaids, and you're probably thinking that mermaids for February is a strange choice, but just hear me out. I was originally thinking of a Year of the Tiger theme, but my sketches didn't really turn out the way I wanted, and I also didn't want to do a Valentine's theme. I've been wanting to do a mermaid theme for a while, and when my grandmother passed away recently and I had to rush back to Norway to be with my family and attend her funeral, I didn't really have the energy to come up with a new theme, so I chose to go with mermaids, which is kind of a comfort theme to me. Not that I've ever done a mermaid theme before, but I've always actually drawn a lot of mermaids. Growing up, I drew a lot of mermaids, so it felt like a theme that I could feel good about while also challenging myself by using bolder colors. My patrons can attest to the fact that I have spent a lot of time drawing mermaids since my grandmother passed, because it's something that makes me happy. I'll be honest, I haven't really been able to work much since she passed, and then I flew back home and I've surrounded myself with family since coming back, not really forcing myself to work or anything. You guys have been really kind and understanding ever since I told you guys about it, and a lot of people told me to just skip my February video altogether, but keeping busy with some kind of art has really been helping me. It's very therapeutic, so I decided to give it a go anyway without worrying too much about when it would actually be done. So here it is, my sad mermaid theme that I made to cheer myself up. This setup took around 4 hours to make, excluding sketching, mostly because there was a lot of line art. Not only the mermaid, but also the little floral details, the strings of pearls and the bubbles and the fish. I wanted to make it look like there was a lot of movement, like she's actually swimming through the water. I think mermaids are so fun to draw because there are no rules. They can literally look like anything, and to be honest, I've always been more drawn to the more kind of sinister and scary versions of merfolk. I think there is so much cool art out there depicting merfolks like really scary creatures, but I thought that for my bullet journal I would go for a more traditional look, I guess, kind of more of my drawing style. You know, I love drawing girls, so this is just that, but with fishtails instead, I guess. So about my cover page, as you can see, I drew a mermaid and some fish, an eel, some bubbles. Basically, there is just a lot floating around here, so I decided to make this like big block of solid color to be a background and kind of frame the whole thing, and then everything is kind of either coming out behind the color block or it is kind of floating in front of it. And that's also why the line art took a while, because I had to be careful with which parts are like in front of other things. That's not always so easy to discern with my sketches because my lines are just all over the place. The marker I use to color the rectangle in with is a Tombow dual brush pen in the color 873, and it's a very bright coral color. It's almost a bit neon, so it really brightens up the spread. I really went for all the colors this time, mixing seafoam greens, bright corals, and ocean blues, even yellow and pinks as well. Mixing this many colors does not come natural to me, and it's even harder when I also have to have skin tones in the mix as well. I realized I don't have very many good water-based markers for skin tones, which is a bit frustrating. I also don't like the streaky look of water-based markers, but you know, it's what works in a notebook like this, and it's easy, and I really didn't feel like using separate pieces of marker paper this time, or paint or anything like that. This setup is all about making myself feel better and drawing colorful fish and pretty mermaids, and it didn't have to be like a super high effort type of setup. This cover page is actually available for my patrons as a printable PDF, and for that one I actually took a picture of my sketch and then I drew the whole cover page digitally so that the fins and the bubbles are actually see-through, and it looks really fun. I drew the digital version before this traditional version in my actual journal, and I tried to kind of replicate the see-throughness of the fins and everything in this traditional version. And I did that by using lighter colors for the fins and then kind of drawing the lines of the tail and the body in gray fine liners so that it looks like they're visible through the fins, if that makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense. I used the darkest bluish green Tombow dual brush pen that I have to letter February above the rectangle, and that is the color 346. I don't really know if I like using Tombow dual brush pens for actual lettering because they're very big, usually makes the font very thick, so I definitely did not press down all the way while lettering this because it would have just become massive. Below the rectangle on the right page I wrote a little sentence from H.C. Andersen's tale of the Little Mermaid, which says, "The world is a series of miracles, but we're so used to them we call them ordinary things." And I just thought that this was a really nice thought, and of course it's also fitting to have a quote from the Little Mermaid in my mermaid themed spreads. The very last thing that I did was to draw some sparkles and small circles all over the spread around the rectangle, because I think spreads always look nicer with a bit of sparkles. All in all, I think that the cover page turned out really nice. I'm quite happy with it. I struggled a lot with this cover page actually, so it is really nice to see it finished and that it actually looks decent. At this point I went to get myself a cup of coffee, and then my cat decided to, you know, set up camp here on my desk. So here is some cat disturbance footage. I swiftly removed him, and I also petted him, of course. He's very cute, but just can't have him on my desk while I'm working. So this next spread will be my calendar spread. I always make a calendar spread. In January I made a Ryder Carroll style calendar, but this time I made a grid calendar because I just felt like it fit better. I split it across the two pages, so I have Monday, Tuesdays and Wednesdays on the left page, and then Thursday through Sunday on the right page, and then to the left of the calendar I have room for my monthly goals and also some of the main tasks that I have for February. And for me, one of my main tasks for February is to have a shop update. I am working on it. It is coming. It is being printed and cut and designed. You know, it takes time. It's taken a lot of extra time now due to this kind of grieving process that I'm going through. I'm not used to this. My grandma is my first family member that has passed away, so I've never actually been to a funeral for a close family member before at the age of 28, which might be a little bit unusual, I don't know. But yeah, it's taking most of my energy really. But like I said, it is coming. All of my Charles patrons in February will get brand new stickers, never seen before. I am very excited about that. I hope that they will like them. I am also expanding my Charles tier to have 40 spots for February, I think. I already expanded to 30 for January, and then I'm expanding to 40 for February because I think it is manageable. I would have liked to do that for January as well. I just didn't have enough stickers to send out, so I wasn't able to. But for February, there will be 40 spots from February 1st. So if you've been wanting to join that tier or upgrade from a lower tier, then this is your chance. At the top of the spread here, I drew a bunch of fish swimming around, which I thought would kind of show how the mermaid is lying on the ocean floor checking out her shell collection, because all mermaids have a shell collection, of course. And then the fish are all swimming around above her. I'm not too familiar with drawing fish actually, so I kind of just drew some from memory, some tropical looking fish and some that look more like carps, since that's the kind of fish I've drawn the most in the past. I didn't make them very detailed, just simple fish with an oval body and then fins here and there. I'm setting up 3 spreads for February in this video, and I have 1 mermaid in each of them, so I decided to make each mermaid have a different tail color and hair color. The mermaid on this page has a kind of seafoam green color on her fins, and I made her hair blonde, or as close to blonde as I can get with these yellow markers. I wanted the main color of the spread to be more bluish, so I decided to color in the headers with blue. And I also made the calendar itself, like everywhere where I will write stuff, I gave those boxes a kind of drop shadow in a deeper blue, which I thought was a nice detail. You'll see that in a sec. Here I actually made a mistake because I colored in this circle with a blue instead of coral. I did think that the blue would look nice at first, but it didn't really work. And I realized that I needed the coral to kind of break up all of this blue and green. So I drew little coral circles in the calendar where all the dates go. And for the 1st of February, the mistake that I made, I just tried to draw over it with my white gel pen and then go over that again with the coral brush pen. It didn't really work that well. It just looks kind of muddy now, but it's okay. And if you're wondering about the square in the top left corner, which is the only square in the calendar that I colored in blue, that is because it is both the 31st of January and it's the 28th of February. That's kind of how I'm making it, because that way the calendar can be really nice and just have 4 weeks instead of starting on the Tuesday and then ending on the Monday. So I know that not everyone likes to do it this way, and usually I don't either, but for this month it just really worked, and then I could letter February at the bottom of the spread and it wouldn't look weird. So you might be able to see that in that square I have written 31/28. So that's kind of a trick that I used this month to make the calendar look nicer. It's definitely not necessary, but it did make the spread a lot easier to make. I also made sure to color in the fish with all of the different colors that I'm using in this setup, so that it will kind of look more cohesive and it's not just green and blue on this page. And that's it for the calendar spread, and then I moved on to my playlist spread and my habit tracker for February. I'm using these notebook therapy stencils to make perfectly round bubbles because I'm not very good at drawing perfect circles without a stencil, and they have some different sizes, so it just worked really well. For the spread, I decided to draw a big mermaid in the middle of the spread and then have the playlist on the left side and then the habit tracker on the right side. My habit trackers never really need that much space, so I kind of worked to have this mermaid take up most of the space on the spread. And really, the habit tracker itself and the playlist itself is very simple, but I just kind of went over the top with the decorations on this page because the mermaid is so big. And yeah, this one is just kind of chilling out in the sea. Wonder what she's looking at. I really love drawing hair underwater, and maybe that's why I really like drawing mermaids, but I just love trying to get the movement right in the hair. I think that's really fun, and I definitely don't always succeed. I think this one turned out quite nice though. I like when it's kind of wavy and big and poofy, you know, the way hair gets when you're swimming underwater. So the habit tracker on the side here, I just made a circle for each of the days of the weeks that are in February. In the habit trackers, I count from the 31st of January until the 27th of February because it just makes sense with the weeks. I know that might be a little bit confusing, but this time the same as with the main calendar, it just looked nicer and didn't take up as much room instead of having that extra 5th line on all of the little calendars. And then I just made a circle for each day, and I'll fill in the circle if I do that habit for that day, and I'll write the habits on top of that straight line that you see, the horizontal lines. The habit tracker has room for 4 habits, and then the playlist has room for 5 songs that I'll be listening to a lot in February. I used the Notebook Therapy stencil again to make these little play buttons because it just looks fun with the playlist. And then I colored in the mermaid, of course, and I made her tail a coral color because so far I'd done a blue tail and a green tail, so now I guess it was time for coral. I really wasn't sure which color to use for her hair, but in the end I landed on the same turquoise blue as her bikini top, and I used a deeper shade to give it a bit more depth as well. One thing that I am not very happy with on this page is the marker that I used for her skin, because it looks a bit gray almost, and it's very streaky, like much more streaky than the other 2 skin tones that I used. So that was a bit disappointing, but I can't really do anything about it now, so I'll have to just accept it and live with it. Mistakes happen all the time, and if I couldn't handle looking at my past mistakes, I wouldn't be making a journal. I am very happy with the rest of the colors on this spread, so even if the skin tone isn't perfect, it's fine. And this is why I also really like the mermaids that I drew digitally, which you will see in my shop very soon, because the skin tones just look very nice and even, and there's no streakiness, and you know, it's just nice to be able to do things over if it doesn't turn out the way I want them to. But yeah, in this playlist I kind of had these squares that are meant for album covers, for example, but instead I drew some fish and some other details that I've included in the rest of these spreads, which I thought was a fun thing to do. And then I gave the rectangles for each song the same drop shadow as I did on the calendar spread, kind of connecting the 2 spreads that way. I also used the same Tombow dual brush pen to letter playlist in the top left corner and then habits in the bottom right corner. I think it looked really nice to have the headers in opposite corners, kind of made it more fun and more dynamic in a way. And then I used washi tape again to get this crisp edge on this rectangle that I drew behind the mermaid, because I hadn't really included anything green in the spread, so I thought that I would make a green background the same way that I did on the cover page. I think it's just nice to include the same details in all of the spreads in different ways. So even though the background is a different color, it's the same technique as on the cover page. And then I used a white gel pen for some details on the scales, and I realized I had forgotten to do that for the mermaid on the calendar spread, but the green was too light so the white didn't really show up very well, so I just used a black fine liner for the scales. And that was the final detail that was missing, I think, so I called it good. And here is a flip through of the completed spreads. I have not started making weekly spreads yet, but I will get to that soon. I really want to use some of the new stickers that I've made for my weekly spreads. I am so excited for them, and I hope that you are too. Like I've mentioned before, I am going through a pretty tough time at the moment. I'm generally not feeling the best, but this setup is very bright and colorful and happy, and I think that's exactly what I needed right now. And I hope that you like it as well. If you enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. A lot of you are not subscribed, but you're still watching my videos, so you know, if you want to be the first to watch them, you better click that subscribe button. And just as a reminder, I do have a Patreon, and I make some pretty cool printables for all of my patrons, so definitely check that out if you're interested. I also send out physical mail every month. And that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really truly appreciate it. I hope that you're all having a really lovely day, and that you have people in your life that you love, and I'll see you next time. Bye!